Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Team Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We had a bit of a hiatus. We had a little bit of a buggy thing with some of the
Yeah.
tournament software, but we figured everything out, and now we're ready for the last round of Swiss.
Technical issues are resolved. It is time to get some people into the top 8. And we do have several already in our top 3 tables we're able to draw.
Yep.
So 6 teams have already punched their ticket into the top 8. We got 2 more slots left, and we're going to watch a match where the winner is going to take one of those 2 slots.
Yeah, so this round, the teams we're going to be watching is May French, Jacob Fumich, and Don Delosier versus Zarek Wiley, Kevin Fieber, and Jaron Denham. And it's going to be a pretty tight one. We're going to start with standard. We got the Teamer World Souls Rage versus Azorius Control. Might actually be a pretty tough matchup for the World Souls Rage deck. I'm curious how this is going to go.
Yeah, we actually saw this team of French Fumich and Delosier in round 1 on camera. They were able to take that match down in part because the Teamer World Souls Rage deck really decimated Domain.
Yes.
Being just a better ramp deck effectively in that matchup. But Control is going to have a lot more disruption. It's going to be a harder match for May to take down to try to get her team into this top 8. And
All right.
she really wants to get in this top 8 because otherwise it's going to be a sort of a one of those roller coaster days for this team. They started 3-0. They are currently 3-1-1.
Okay.
So a draw and a loss in their last 2 rounds. They need to right the ship real quick. Otherwise, they're going to be going home feeling, thinking
They'll come
what
back
if.
tomorrow.
They will be coming back.
All right, so we have been given the special playmats that go to the Apex Invitational Qualifier winners, the champions of every Apex Invitational qualifier will receive the Baseju Hundors playmat from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. This full art playmat is absolutely gorgeous.
That is a flavor win because the winners have endured in order to make it through the tournament. They are the Baseju of the day. So we got 3 of these to hand out in a few hours today because we're going to do the entire top 8 after this round of Swiss.
Yep. Backup feature matches: Pioneer, Fumage versus Fiber. It's going to be 2 vampire decks battling it out. We'll probably go to them last. And then in Modern, Dawn on the Domain Renos and Denim on Domain Zoo. Very similar archetypes, so we'll just get to those when we can, and we'll kind of bounce around based on what we're seeing.
We got a mirror and a pseudo mirror, so we'll start with the more interesting matchup: this ramp versus Control.
All right, let's head on down to the feature match area where we're going to watch old May French with Teamer World Souls Rage fight out against Zarek Wiley on Azorius Control.
Now, one dynamic for this matchup is the blue-white control deck having 4 copies, of the Wandering Emperor. This is a card that normally would be pretty weak in a matchup like Ramp. Not a lot of targets for the -2, but just playing it as a proactive threat, pumping out 2/2s and being able to apply some pressure to May could be very important for the control deck. Allow it to leverage counter spells like No More Lies before May gets enough mana to pay that 3.
All right. That's what I agree.
Okay, so a lot of mulliganing happening here in this game 1.
Okay. Ross, I got a question for you while they're doing that. Are there any new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, yeehaw, in this Azorius Control deck from Zarek Wiley?
Does not look like it. No. It's a lot of sweepers.
Yeah, 1 Farewell, 3 Depopulate.
2 Sunfall and 2 Temporary Lockdown, all in the main. 8 sweepers. Not going to be very good in this matchup.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, the players are underway here. Just lands from Zarek Wiley, but that's fairly commonplace. May starts off with one of those fetch lands, goes and gets Forest and goes up to 21. Can now use the Virtue of Strength to bring it back and keep hitting land drops. All right, name me one of the fetch lands without looking.
Carabeti Courtyard.
That's the one I know as well, because the Carabeti is a good name.
There's also Maestro's Theater and Broker's Hideout in May's list.
Yeah, he is looking at the deck list. I can confirm. That's fine. I didn't know him. I was curious if he knew him. All right. We have Meticulous Archive from Zarek Wiley. It's going to surveil. These surveil lands are making an impact in basically every format they touch, thanks to fetch lands and Modern, Legacy, and then Standard and Pioneer. They're just pretty solid lands.
Yeah, some of the better dual lands printed in recent years. 2 copies in Zarek Wiley's list.
Back to May. Let's see if she has some sort of punish here on 3. Maybe goes for a Nissa. Maybe goes for one of those creatures that can start generating some extra resources or mana. There it is.
Goes for the Nissa. Do we have a counter spell? Oof. No more lies. Tell
No
me the
more
truth, please.
Nissa.
Yeah, that's very important. There's a lot of ways to recur those Nissas from the graveyard, so getting it exiled. Very nice.
Why is everything exiled now? Everything exiles.
Exile's the new graveyard.
It's supposed to be the place you can't touch. And then they made Pull from Eternity, and I was just like, And then they did Eldrazi that started eating stuff that was in exile, and I was like,
And there's an Aftermath analyst for May French.
It's going to hit a No More Lies as well.
Okay.
No more creatures for you. Another fetch land from May. Going to keep the life total high.
That one is a broker's hideout.
My man. He's looking at the artwork.
Blowing up my spot.
I'm
at
sorry,
Every
I'm sorry,
opportunity. I know all the cards.
All right, what's the name of the new spree that's counter draw 2 discard 1?
It's Cancel Spree.
Cancel Spree. I actually think Cancel Spree is a good name for it. Oh, Cancel Spree. Our director thinks he knows. Here's Memory Deluge. Top 4 cards coming. Derek Wiley going to put 2 in hand. It's going to be a powerful play later in the game on that flashback. Wasn't going to hit a land drop, so decided to do it main phase. We're going to go back French's turn with basically all shields down.
Yeah, shields down, but not a lot of mana for French, so there's not a huge threat that she can land here. You know, not enough mana to play something like Virtue of Strength, not enough mana to World Soul's Rage for a significant amount, so she's really limited to just Ill-Timed Explosion, draw a couple cards, Memory Deluge, which is draw a couple cards plus.
Yeah. Ill-Timed Explosion, let's get that one on the screen because it's one of my favorite cards printed in the last few sets. For 2, a blue and a red, it's a sorcery where you get to draw 2 cards, and then you may choose to discard 2 cards, and if you do, you get to deal X damage to all creatures, where X is the greatest mana value among the cards discarded. It's a little bit wonky in terms of templating, but the fact of the matter is it's 4 mana draw 2, or 4 mana draw 2, discard 2, and blow up the whole battlefield. Pretty sweet when you got Virtue of Strength and stuff in your deck.
Yeah. One thing to note from the control deck, it is very much more focused on removal than counter spells. The only counters in the main deck are that 4 copies of No More Lies.
And those get invalidated pretty quick here in the later turns.
So we'll see if May dances around those, especially with something like World Soul's Rage, where the temptation is to always sink as much as possible into X. But if she gets enough mana, she could pretty easily leave 3 floating for it late in the game if Wiley's not able to pressure her and force an end to this game a little bit earlier.
All right, draws 2. Not going to discard. We're going to play a land and pass the turn. Next turn, we can start casting Virtues. But here, Wiley going to get a little aggressive. Wandering Emperor is going to come down, make a 2/2, and then it's going to tick up to 3/3 and start chunking in some damage.
Yeah, with only conditional counter spells in the main deck, having pressure is super important for Zarek Wiley, so that Wandering Emperor is much needed. And if he can get this game won, I really like him after sideboard.
Ooh, what's in the sideboard? A bunch of negates and stuff?
Yeah, just a lot of
Weird.
counter spells.
Ross and I were talking pretty extensively yesterday about the history of counter spells out of the sideboard. And for the longest time, there was nothing. We had Spell Snare at some point. We had, I don't know, sideboard Rune Snag one time during Cold Snap, I think. Mana Leak was de facto main deck one, though. But then they made Negate in Morning Tide, and now Negate's in every blue sideboard, ever. Forever.
All of them.
2 Negate. Book it. If you put 2 Negate in every blue sideboard possible, it's, like, probably right. At least in, like, Pioneer Forward. All right, back to the game. May French facing down this Wandering Emperor. We had a main phase deduce, but didn't have a land drop. Here comes Nissa. All right, this is Nissa, I believe, Resurgent Animus. Let's get this on the screen because this is a card from Aftermath from last year. A set that everyone hated so much that they scrapped the Aftermath style set they were going to do for Thunder Junction and just piled all the cards into the set au natural. 3/3 for 3. A lot of abilities, but mostly it's Lotus Cobra with some extra steps.
Yeah, get some map tokens, but not many creatures in this team or deck, so it's actually hard for May to turn the map tokens into anything useful. There's 11 total creatures, and one of them is a Shigeki Jukai Visionary that often gets channeled instead of put onto the battlefield.
That's true. Shigeki's sweet, though. Get stuff back from the grave. Does a good Sakura Tri-Belter impression. It's one of your better draws when you have infinity mana, which Virtue of Strength gives you. Another ill-timed explosion. We'll see if May wants to keep both cards or discard a couple to kill the creature on the other side of the battlefield. But she's at 22, so I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, and this is very much a critical mass deck. She needs a ton of lands. Just trying to draw no more land drops, get that mana up, play around these No More Lies.
All right, Wily going to draw a card off the Clue main phase to hit a land drop, finds Restless Anchorage. We're going to jam in for 3, and it looks like Wandering Emperor is going to be going down to make another creature. So going to be a little more pressure on May, but still at 19, a very healthy total.
More 2/2s. We can attack for 5 next turn, then 7 by making another knight. So this is a 3-turn clock.
Ooh, World Souls Rage is the pickup. Let's see if May wants to go for a Virtue of Strength and set up for a big kill next turn.
Can add 7 lands on the battlefield right now. Could play an 8th. So not enough to cast Virtue around a No More Lies.
All right, going to go ahead and play one of those fetch lands, gain a life up to 20. Searching for basic.
Yeah, that one was the Maestro's Theater.
And now, with 7 mana, seems like a perfect time to try to resolve a Virtue. I don't think you're in fear of dying next turn, and it's just such a huge boost to your mana for the World Souls Rage. But May going to go for the Animist instead, Aftermath Analyst, and that's going to potentially get some lands back from the graveyard and maybe do the kill next turn anyway.
It's a very nice one because you can pay the 3 for the No More Lies. Wily still going to cast the No More Lies here because the extra lands are going to invalidate it anyway.
Ooh. I don't know what May has going on in hand. I kind of feel like pay plus double map is okay.
Yeah.
2 lands and a World Souls Rage in hand? Yeah. Pay.
And Wily likely has some dead piece of removal that he can use to answer the 1/3 before May untaps.
Right. Because the Aftermath Analyst doesn't need to untap to use its ability, so May could have sacrificed it right then and there and got all those fetch lands back and ramped up plus 4 more lands.
Yeah. And a few more life.
I believe there was a missed trigger from the Aftermath Analyst, so I think we have a minor judge call here. The 3 was paid, and then May forgot the trigger from Aftermath. When it comes in, you get to mill the top 3.
Which could be relevant.
Yeah, but it's just a missed trigger, and then I think Wily has the option to put it on the stack or not. I think that's likely what's going to be the outcome here.
They're talking about it.
Yeah. All right, well, as these players are discussing what happened with the judge, we'll take this time just to go over what's happening in some of our backup matches. You can go check with the spotter and see if anyone's taken down game number 1 or maybe even game number 2 in the backup, but we're only 10 minutes into the round.
Keep in mind, this is the last round of Swiss here on day 1 of Apex Con. So once this round wraps, we will have the top 8 later today, and then tomorrow, Todd and I will be back in the booth bringing you a modern AIQ.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Invitational qualifier.
Yeah, tomorrow's Modern Open is going to be quite fun, and we already have a bunch of people pre-registered. If you are in the Ohio area and you are free on Sunday, make sure to come on out to Caldwell, Ohio at Apex Gaming and come play in our Modern Open. We got $5K and cash and prizes on the line, as well as invitationals to both the regional championship as well as the Apex Invitational at the end of this year. All right, well, as these players are doing the judge call, we're going to flip over to one of the backup matches, and then we're just going to kind of jump in there.
Don's up 1-0 and Kevin is up 1-0.
Okay. So Kevin Fiber on Vampires is up a game against Fumich. And then in the backup match we have, you said Don was up? Don Delosier is up a game with Rhinos versus Denim Zoo. So let's move to the middle match. Let's go to Vampires. Let's watch a little vampire on vampire action to see whose veins are getting ripped. All right, we'll get graphics updated for you in just a moment. Life totals and everything. All right, Ross. Oh, never mind. Kevin Fiber just takes it down 2-0 really quickly. I wonder how good. So there's a new vampire in play, but I saw Vein Ripper. I'm not sure that the new vampire matters much. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that new vampire, Ross?
Vadmir New Blood.
Yeah, so 2 cost, 2/2. Vadmir New Blood says whenever you commit a crime, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and then if it's got a lot of counters on it, it gets lifelink.
And Menace.
And Menace.
4 more counters. Soren can put counters on it as a vampire, so got a little synergy there with one of your better cards.
All right, let's move to the backup feature of Modern. And we got Leyline of the Guild Pact and Wild Nakato facing down a Sign of Draco. We're early here in game number 2. Delosier up 1, but down on life right now thanks to the aggression of Wild Nakato and those lands.
Yeah, and Denim has a Leyline advantage here in game 2. That can be very important. So that's Scion of Draco on Dawn's side, just a 4/4 flyer.
Then I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice the Flooded Strand, even though we already have Domain. Curious if we're getting a Surveil land. Nope, just going to go ahead and get a basic. Just in case the old Leyline of the Guild Pact goes away. There's a weird thing that I think the Domain Zoo players are afraid of losing their Leyline and having their Kavu die. If all their lands are just untapped fetch lands,
Yeah.
so they're just fetching.
Gotta make sure you at least have one land with some types in play.
Is that Wear Tear?
Judge calls down the one if you want to back.
Let's just stay on this one. We'll stay here. Since we're already here. Alright. The Sign of Draco hits the bin. Nakato comes in for 3. Delosier down to 10. We'll see if she has anything to come back here. Grip full. This Rhino's deck can just make 10 power out of nowhere. We'll see if that's going to be the play. Looks like tapped Hallowed Fountain. Ew. Ew. Jaren Denham swinging in with a Wild Nakato. Here comes Leyline Binding. See if he wants to fight over it. No. Nakato down. Ooh, and no more pressure. Maybe a handful of answers. This is Dawn's chance to get back in it.
May also just be a handful of nothing.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a hand to begin with.
Here's Ardent Plea. See if there's any counterspell. Ooh, right off the top. See if there's any way for Denham to stop this Crashing Footfalls. There's a Leyline Binding in response. Or maybe this is after the tokens, just to take out a token. Ah! Okay, so we have Leyline Binding on Binding, get back Wild Nakato, and then Flusterstorm with Storm, and that is going to counter the Crashing Footfalls unless Dawn pays 3, and Dawn cannot, and so it's countered.
Cool beans. Just making sure they get a third copy, just in case. Because if, it's now, Force Negation wouldn't have done anything, but.
All right, here comes an attack for 3. Dawn down to 7. And then Denham just buys Gigantha.
Doesn't play a 5th land, though. So, a little suspect. Could just be
Another Binding, maybe.
Could be a binding. You know, you figure like any shock or always ETB tap land they would play to make sure they have 5 mana without spending any additional life. So and a fetch for, you know, Surveil land would have been fine there if that was the draw for Denham. So it makes me suspect that that was a non-land, but it's not something proactive because they didn't play it. That would have been better than buying Gigantha. So yeah, probably some sort of removal spell.
All right, well, Dawn here fetches a 2nd green source with Lush Portico. I think there's a Force of Vigor hiding out in her hand. She can use that to kill the Leyline and the Leyline Binding.
It could also be a Leyline of the Guild Pact.
Sure.
That's the best case scenario for Dawn.
All right, finds another Sign of Draco. Not protected with a Leyline of the Guild Pact yet, so may want to hold that for at least a turn. May want to just go ahead and jam it. It only costs 2. It's pretty big. I really like the idea of using your Force of Vigor this turn because you get to basically answer the Wild Nikado and turn off the future Scions from being unbeatable.
Yeah. At this point, at 6 life, you've really got to be cognizant of Tribal Flames.
True.
So it's incumbent on Dawn to try to stop the bleeding immediately and completely.
All right. Tapping 3. That's a Teferi Time Raveler. Let's see what the target is. Gonna just bounce old Wild Nikado and draw a card. Okay. That fetch land seems like dangerous. Dangerous is the word I would use.
It's definitely dangerous.
But maybe casting whatever costs 2 here is way more important than doing nothing.
Dawn living on the edge. Especially because Tribal Flames could very easily have been the draw last turn.
Yeah.
A face down card over Tribal Flames, I would not be surprised.
All right, Dawn down to 5. Wild Nikado recast. Another Wild Nikado. 2 arts.
Okay.
All right, what you got, Don?
So just an Alpha Strike next turn for Denim could potentially deal 3 to Dawn and get her into bolt range.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. Dawn can't really attack with this Scion unless she hard casts a Leyline of her own.
We can do some serious stuff here. We can go Shardless Agent into double Crashing Footfalls and then Scion of Draco.
That'd be pretty good. And then get in for 5 and have an attack for 16 when Denim's at 12. You just crossing your fingers there's no burn.
I forget about old Ardent Plea.
I didn't. 4+1 is 5.
I thought it was a 5/5 for some reason. I know it's not in my brain. It's just, man. Shot myself in the foot on that one, huh?
Yep. But I wasn't going to point it out. Dawn in the tank here. She's put herself in a precarious spot, but looks to have the tools to take over this game. Is that a Force Figure?
It is. She's had that one for a while. I thought she was going to use it earlier to blow up Leyline, and then get her Leyline back and eat the Wild Nikado with it. But that was the turn where she went for Teferi Scion, I believe.
And then Subtlety is the last card in hand, so
Ooh.
a ton of options here. She could just play Scion, attack for 5, and pass, leaving up both pitch spells. Because the Shardless Agent is convenient colors for both.
Well, remember, the Scion doesn't have Vigilance unless it's all colors, right?
Yes.
So attacking is rather dangerous. Obviously,
you-
you can flash in something to block, but then you have to make the first move, and I hate having to make the first move.
But you're protected because of the Teferi if
Right.
Denim goes into combat. So
That's fair.
you'd have you'd have the second Scion back as a blocker, and the potential to Force of Vigor mid-combat to binding the unblocked Wild Nikado. Keep yourself at 5, answer both threats, and then have 8 power to crack back with Denim on 12 life.
All right, here it is. Shardless Agent's gonna Crashing Footfalls. We'll see if Venom has an answer, but the Teferi makes that very unlikely.
Personally, I like getting aggressive here, so I like making rhinos. You know, you're playing against the top of Denim's deck at this point, so it behooves you to end the game quickly.
Mm-hmm. 2 more rhinos to go along with that sign of Draco. Shoreless Agent enters as well.
Yeah, then we can play the other Scion, attack for 5. And it would be lethal next turn. Because the best the Nacatls can do is each blocking a Rhino, soaking up 3 damage against Trample, and you're still taking 12 from 2 Scions, 1 point each from the Rhinos and the Shardless Agent. And that still doesn't factor in the fact that Dawn can main phase the Force of Vigor with a hard cast, deal with the opposing Leyline Binding, and answer another blocker with her own Leyline Binding coming back from it. So
Lane number 5 for Denim. This means Gigantha's unlocked, but
yeah,
don't think it's good enough.
it is not. This should be an exact lethal attack for Dawn Delosier. As long as she has double green, yeah, which she does.
All right, walk me through it. I don't see lethal here. I see Gigantha on a 4/4, and I see double Nakata block a 4/4.
We have our own Leyline Binding under the opposing Leyline Binding.
Ah,
So that answers the Gigantha.
yes. Okay, cool deal. Give me back my binding. Gigantha down. Swinging it.
And Alpha Strike Teferi stops any shenanigans from Denim,
That's true.
and should be exactly 12.
Even if it's not, it just forces a serious jump block or whatever. But
Yeah.
it is just lethal if we swing with everything. 1 trample on each, +2, +8. Yeah. All right. Nicely done. Dawn Delosier, Domain Rhinos takes down the match, but that evens it up to 1-1. Fumich fell in the Vampire Mirror in Pioneer, so we're going to be moving back to Standard. And boy, it looks like we have a game on our hands, folks. We got May French with Teamer Warsoul's Rage doing some serious shenanigans with extra mana. Virtue of Strength looks like it hit the table and then got blown up by a Get Lost, but not before it made roughly 180 mana.
Yeah, and can we confirm what game this is?
This is still game 1, I guarantee it.
That's what I suspected.
Dawn's taking out a light, so
And a game 1 win would be really big for French here. 1, it's the game before Wily gets to bring in his hard counters. And 2, they're already halfway through time. We could end up with a 101.
True,
match
but
win.
they did have 2 judge calls, I believe, so they probably have, an extra 8 or 10 minutes or so. So
Yeah.
Let's check on their time extension real quick, and then we'll just go ahead and add that to the clock so there's less confusion.
yeah, I was thinking they had another judge call immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, but that is May French taking game 1.
Okay, well, as these players are shoveling up here for game number 2, they're going to take a look at their sideboards, and as they do that, I'm going to throw it over to Ross. Give me your expert analysis. How do you think old Zarek Wiley is going to come back with this Azorius control deck? I know he's got some counterspells on the sideboard.
Yeah, really important for him to get to these sideboard games. I see 3 copies of Negate, 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, and then in addition to that, we have 1 Jace the Perfected Mind to go along with 2 in the main, 2 Kutzil's Flanker, 2 March of Otherworldly Light, 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Sunfall, 1 Sunset Rivalry, and 1 Temporary Lockdown.
We're getting rid of, all of the
Yeah,
sweepers,
so
right?
there's 8 sweepers in the main deck. There's also 3 copies of Sunset Revelry that are not very good
Yeah.
in this matchup.
That's
so
11 cuts.
there's 11 cards I want to bring out. I don't think there's 11 cards to bring in.
Okay.
Because there's
Maybe
2 more
stuff like March is okay, right? It's just...
Yeah, so there's 2 more sweepers and another lockdown that aren't coming in. So there's max 12 cards that could come in.
Mhm.
The rest in pieces are actually pretty solid because there's a lot of ways to bring Lance back from the graveyard
I agree.
in May's deck. So I wouldn't mind those. Love the 5 counter spells. I like the Kutzil's Flankers just as a 3-mana 3/1 flash to get some more pressure. You can also exile the graveyard with it, if in case that's relevant. Another copy of Jace the Perfected Mind. It's not great in this matchup, but I think it does something.
I
And
mean, it draws cards. It's got to be better than Wrath of God.
yeah, and then you probably want to bring in the 2 marches. That's a nice, easy answer to Nissa. Late game, it can answer almost anything. Certainly better than the sweepers or the Sunset
Oof,
Revelries.
Look at all those white cards coming out. Zarek
Yeah.
Wiley's got a grip full. All the depopulates, all the farewells, temporary lockdowns,
Yeah, I mean,
in the
there's
bench.
2 copies of Horned Lock Whale that aren't even great in the matchup, but just a 6-mana 6/6 flash will be fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right, on the other side of the table, though, May French's Teamer World Soul. She's up a game. We'll get that marked in just a moment, but we are looking for some very specific sideboard cards here, namely things that can interact with an opposing control deck.
The Jace isn't even good in this matchup, especially when you're bringing in the rest in pieces. So maybe you just don't bring in the third Jace, and that gives you 11 cards to bring in, and you can cut the sweepers and the revelries.
All right, well, take a look at May's sideboard with that Temur World Soul deck, and let me know what you think of that one.
Well, she also has 3 copies of Negate, so those are excellent. 3 Lithomantic Barrage could come in to combat some of the Planeswalkers.
Okay,
Um,
it's interesting.
there's
Curious.
1 copy of Doppelgang. Maybe you want another big threat.
I saw someone doppelgang Virtue of Strength once. It was weird.
Yeah. And there's 2 of Braid, not great. A 2nd copy of Shigeki that could come in. A Spelunking. That one's pretty cool with your ramp spells.
Also, just draws a card. I think the card's fine.
Yeah, a Titania, a Tranquil Throwback, a Turn the Earth, all not great, and then a 3rd copy of Vampire's Vengeance. The 2 in the main are likely coming out.
Yeah, most of the creature-based interaction from both sides is coming out.
Yeah, Vampire's Vengeance could be relevant at dealing with like a swarm of 2/2s from the Wandering Emperor, but you also just have Ill-Timed Explosion that can do that, and is never going to sit dead in your hand.
Yeah, you'll just draw 2.
Yep. So,
Okay.
unnecessary is Vampire's Vengeance.
As the players are getting ready for game number 2, I want to let chat know that the timer on the clock is the updated timer with their extension. They did have a judge call, so they have roughly 28.5 minutes to finish the next 2 games. I think hopefully they will get there. But Blue Eye Control versus Temur World Shift or Temur World Souls can go long.
And if I recall, it was a while ago when we started game 1 watching it. May was on a mulligan to 5. So impressive stuff. Wily just not able to cobble together enough pressure. I think that the incidental life gain that this deck gets from all of those pseudo fetch lands that Capenna fetches ends up being really relevant.
Agreed.
It just buys you an extra turn or 2, and that's often all the deck needs.
Yeah, and on top of that, they come back quite often with World Souls Rage for small amounts, and they can usually there's an early World Souls Rage that's like kill something, bring back 3 or 4 lands, gain 3 or 4 life, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, this card is stellar with these Capenna fetch lands.
It's just Gruul Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah. If there were just actual fetch lands in the format, World Souls Rage would be incredible.
Oh.
It's already pretty good.
It would just be shock plus explosive vegetation.
Yeah.
With upside.
Should we be playing that in older formats? Is that anything?
Oh.
I don't know. Now I'm starting to think maybe we're missing something. All right. One of these fetches is going to go get forced. May up to 21. Wily with no play on 1 or 2 passes the turn. That doesn't mean that there's nothing there. It just means that nothing is their main phase. May have some sort of flash threat. No more lies at the ready.
Yeah, no 2 mana flash threats in this deck. Needs to get to 3 mana for the Kutzil's Flanker. 4 mana for Emperor.
All right, here's Aftermath Analyst going to meet No More Lies right to the Exile Zone. Wily draws Restless Anchorage, going to go ahead and play that for the turn. He's going to set up for maybe a 4th turn Wandering Emperor. Curious if he has any more defenses up for this Nissa that might come down here.
This is a tough one to play here because it could just meet a Get Lost.
Okay, no answer. Going to go back Wily's way. And he's like, yes, something resolved. And march it. Bang. See ya.
But now he's tapped out again, so now he can resolve maybe a card draw spell. May's got 4 copies of Memory Deluge, 4 copies of Ill-Timed Explosion. That could keep pulling her ahead while Wily's playing a bunch of 1-for-1s.
Okay, back to May's turn. May and Dawn playing Two-Headed Giant right now against Zarek Wily. That's one of the coolest things about team tournaments, being able to converse with your teammates, especially after your match is done.
Yeah, this is the all-hands-on-deck match. And we're playing for top 8. We're 1-1.
Fumage looking over like, what y'all talking about? All right, y'all got it. I'm going to go on my phone. All right, we're going to go for a 2-point World Souls Rage to play a land from hand and a land from graveyard. It's going to give us a little bit of ramp up to 6, which means maybe Virtue of Loyalty next turn.
So a little explore action, a little rebuy a land action.
It's so cool that it gets lands out of the graveyard. And I don't know. I don't know who was the first person to build this deck, but this deck's cool. I was a big Team of Reclamation head, and this gives me Team of Rec vibes.
It's sort of even more combo-y than Team of Reclamation.
Yeah. I feel like the way I was building Team of Rec at the beginning was very much combo-y, and then the more successful versions were all very interactive. Finding the balance was always difficult. Luckily, World Souls Rage is both. All right.
I think this is an ill-timed explosion for French.
Gonna be a draw 2. See if Zarek wants to counter this. Let's go.
That is the Shigeki, along with the land drawn. So I think May's hand is 2 lands, another ill-timed explosion, and the one of Shigeki.
Yep. Unfortunately for May, though, the Shigeki much less effective when your opponent's interaction all exiles your stuff.
Well, but she's got a couple, she could cast the other draw 2 and then rebuy World Soul's Rage and a couple Divinations. It's all just all non-legendary cards.
Very cool.
So all of her spells are fair game.
Jace Perfected Mind gonna come in here. What do you do? Draw a card, tick up.
You don't want to mill.
That's true. Do like fake shrinky dinks, try to get it up to like 10 and then mill you for 30 at once to deck you.
You could start milling yourself and hit deluges.
Already has one Deluge in the grave. Not sure that's better than just trying to go for the decking.
And just build towards one big swing and then have a counterspell for some World Souls Rages. The Shigeki would really punish that, though. You want to mill 30 of my cards? I'll get back the 7 best ones.
Yeah. All right, 8 mana.
So this is X equals 5. Or it's XX, sorry. So this is
So it costs 8
Yeah.
to do 3 cards. It's GGXX, right?
yeah, so that was X equals 3. Gets back the 3 spells.
Okie dokie. World Souls Rage coming. What you got?
Or just a couple more divinations coming. If you're May, you probably want to get to the point where you can either negate back on a negate or disdainful stroke, or at least pay the 3 for a no more lies, maybe both,
Yeah.
but still fire off a World Source Rage that is for a significant amount.
A counterspell here from May on Flashback Deluge seems quite strong. I don't love going after Jace with World Souls Rage here, but getting to play like all the lands in your hand and multiple fetches from hand and grave or whatever just seems like pretty good. Looks like we're just gonna draw 2 though. Zarek says, I'm just casting Deluge in turn. Whatever you do this turn, I don't care. Deluge is coming.
You got to do it sometime, and rather do it earlier than later. Looks like a Nissa off the draw 2 and a Analyst.
Yeah, Aftermath Analyst is the other pickup.
Not that great at this point with so few lands in the graveyard.
Oh, we'll get there. Here's a Nissa. That combined with one of those fetch lands we got back with Shigeki can get another Nissa from the deck and some extra mana, but Zarek seems to be lining up some sort of interaction but decides to let it go. We got a trigger.
Maybe was thinking about using a counter spell, but would rather use a removal spell.
Okay. Gets a forest, and now 1 mana floating, and gets to go get a Nissa.
Yeah. And you see the real problem here for Wily not having an early Wandering Emperor. It's basically his only way to apply pressure, and without it, like May just has so much inherent card advantage. The Shigeki being like an uncounterable draw 3 spells card is really backbreaking.
All right, so May has the ability here to play an Aftermath Analyst with the floating mana. And your thought process might be like, oh, I shouldn't do that because my opponent might play a Wrath of God effect. But if you think about it, they probably don't have any Wrath of God effects left in their deck after
Yeah.
game 1.
So just jam it.
Yeah, we get a mill 3, and then next turn we get to maybe combo kill. We'll see how it goes, but here's Deluge. See if Zarek Wiley can find some help. May in the driver's seat, but Zarek not out yet.
Looks to be about halfway through her deck, does May. It's counting up Graveyard Exile, hand in play.
We can minus 21, Millie for 21 if you're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah, now May's doing the deck count. So there's 9 lands in play, 2 non-lands, that's 11. Looks like 9 cards in the graveyard and exile, so that's 20, and about 5-ish in hand. So 35 cards maybe left in the deck. This would be a mill for 21.
Another Jace from hand would be a mill for 15, so that would be for 36 if he's got both.
Yeah.
That might be enough. Okay.
This
Do
is just
you have the other Jace?
a 2-card combo, Jace and Jace?
Yeah, you can just rip a Jace into Jace. Oh! 36 cards!
Okay.
Oh, no.
I think I think because May lets this resolve, but is probably conceding to the second one. But because she let it resolve, she's gonna have to show the cards, maybe.
I don't know. Whatever. I'm out of here.
Yeah, just show me the 21 cards so I can get some information, and then you can concede.
Okay, so May there tapping out just gets brained for 36 cards off the top of the deck from a pair of Jace Perfected Minds. You were kind of poo-pooing Jace Perfected Mind before that game, but it seems like that might be Zarek's only way to win the game.
You know, played one, plussed it twice, then had a second copy, and that did enough. Maybe that's good enough. Maybe you want 3, because it seems like you need to draw 2 of them to have that mill plan work.
Yeah.
But May does tear through her deck. Those fetch lands take cards out of it. All the card draw.
Yeah.
And, and the self mill from Aftermath Analyst and Philology Archaeologist, it does open her up to that kind of plan. So, good stuff from Zarek Wiley, finding the way to apply pressure in a non-traditional way.
Yeah. Deck damage. We got game 3 coming up here. We got standard. We got Azorius Control versus Teamer World Souls Rage. The winner of this will punch their ticket into the top 8 and fight for their fair share of $5,000 in cash and prizes.
The final game of our Swiss. Once this is concluded, we'll take a short break and then come back to bring you the top 8. 3 more rounds today before we crown a champion. Give out some money. Give out some invites to the Apex Invitational this coming November. Invites to the upcoming Regional Championship. And the Sweet Beseiju playmats.
Yeah, this Beseiju playmat's something else. I really like it. I want one.
Well, you're probably not going to get one.
I'll trade for it.
Okay.
Someone might trade for it. I don't know. Just one of those cards. Everyone loves Beseiju. I hate Beseiju, but I like the art.
I'm with you on that one. All
It's
right.
too free. But that's why everyone loves it. Oh, you want to play Force in your deck? Beseiju. You want to play 2 Force in your deck? Beseiju's free.
Well, looking over sideboards again, I doubt any changes are happening as a result of the shift in play and draw, especially with Wiley. His sideboarding was all
One-dimensional.
directed, all directed by the fact that he has so many weak cards in the main deck. And May mainly sideboarding to combat the additional counter spells from Wiley's sideboard.
All right, time to lock in. Both players here. Thinking about those top 8 dreams and an invite to the Apex Invitational later this year, as well as the Invitational qualifier or the Regional Championship qualifiers on the line.
What do we got, May?
Okie dokie. Got a Frillback chilling. Wonder what that's for.
Yeah, Tranquil Frillback, a singleton in the sideboard.
Maybe it's for attacking. Maybe it's a
Maybe.
3/3 for 3 that beats down.
There's not many artifacts and enchantments to target with it.
Gain some life. Oh, is it Shuffle Graveyard or Exile Graveyard? Darn, it's Exile. If it had the endurance ability, that'd be kind of cool.
Here's a mulligan from Zarek Wiley. Didn't like his opener, but this is a matchup where I don't think volume of cards matters nearly as much as the specific cards he has. He needs the counter spells, he needs the Wandering Emperor for pressure, and he needs to make 4 to 6 land drops pretty smoothly. If he can do those 3 things, I don't care if he's down a card or even 2.
For rest in peace.
Yeah.
Oh, good call.
Okay.
All right, so Rest in Peace is likely coming in from Wiley's side, and that's a good reason for the fillback for sure. All right, down to 6 cards is Wiley. Let's see what he puts back. Maybe he puts it all back and goes to 5. Never want to be mulling to 5 when you're winning in, especially in a team event. Ugh.
You know, May 1 on a mull to 5 in game 1. Zarek can do it in game 3 if need be.
Mhm.
Looks like he's thinking about what to put back, so I think we'll be keeping 6. And teammate advises that march goes to the bottom.
Okay, one of those fetch lands coming down. Gonna
Broker's
find
Hideout.
Island. Broker's Hideout. Is that the Bant one?
It is the Bant one.
Just a tap land from Wiley. We're going to go back May's way. See if she has Analyst or another one of those powerful 2-drops. This is a Shigeki. We're going to start ramping a little bit. Ramping.
Interesting that she wants to risk casting that one when it's worth so much value channeling. So hard for Wiley to interact. Basically, he needs Rest in Peace to stop the recursion from being relevant. And if you place Rest in Peace, then you can cast it as a creature.
Yeah, but Scourge Eyebelders. I'm sorry, Shigeki on 2 on the play against Azor's
Yeah.
Control. If they just like get lost to you or whatever, great. I don't know.
It's going to work out quite well. But it was a risk. I'm not saying it was a mistake, but it was a risk.
Mhm.
And May being rewarded for her courage.
Sometimes you have to head empty. I used to get head empty playing show and tell all the time. It was great. I never have it. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Plus, I could just draw another show and tell. You just draw another Shigeki, Ross.
Activate Shigeki. Look at the top 5. Ooh.
Ooh.
Or top 4, sorry. Yeah, that's
A whiff.
a miss. And milled a lot of gooders.
And there's a rip. Rest in peace, but no
Ooh.
third land for Wiley. And wow, that's a powerful card. It's not game over. And we know French actually has that frill back in hand, so it's just going to get blown out this turn.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the frill back right here.
Boom.
Perfectly on the curve.
All right, main phase deduce here for Wiley, looking for land number 3. Going to go ahead and get that clue token.
Doesn't
Finds
hit it.
farewell. Is that farewell stuck in hand?
Just kept one of the sweepers as a way to answer graveyards.
All right,
That's
well,
a pretty expensive Morningtide.
hey, it hits frill back in play. You know, 4 turns from now, if all 4 land drops are hit and untapped on the last one.
Yeah, let's recast the Shigeki now that the channel is worthless. Or it's still not necessarily worthless, but
Look, it fills the graveyard itself.
Yeah.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
exactly. You got to set up that channel. Wiley hits his 3rd land, but nothing going.
Lucky. All right. May draws Aftermath Analyst. 6 land means maybe casting that and activate. Maybe not. Attack for 3, though. See if Wiley wants to answer. Nope. Down to 14.
And this might be a small ball game for May.
Don't see too many of those out of this Team of World Souls deck.
The miss with the Shigeki has kind of blunted her mana growth and her mana development, but the throwback and just 2/2. Why don't we just start beating down?
All right, Shigeki going to activate. Looking for land in the top 4. Everything else goes to the grave.
Yeah, in a 30 land deck, it's pretty likely.
It's Island. That's lucky. Also, it's a fetch land. Going to go ahead and get that one in play.
Oh, and And is the Maestro's Tower. The Ungrixis land in the cycle, using it here just for the is it thirds.
May gonna go ahead and keep the Shigeki chain rolling. Just bounce it, play it. Bounce it, play it. Get some lands. Decide to maybe swap it up here.
4 mana, mill 3 rampant growth.
I've seen worse cards. I've seen better cards, but I've definitely seen worse cards.
Yeah, we've all seen Chimney Imp.
Okay. Aftermath Analyst gonna mill 3. Any reactions from Zarek Wiley? No. Gonna let it stick. Probably just wanted to
Yeah.
crack this clue to hit land drops.
Now the Shigeki looking pretty nice.
That's true. Graveyard big.
We can get 2 of these back.
Flanker comes down. This is going to eat the
Okay.
graveyard. A lot of anti-graveyard stuff here from Wiley. Kutzel's Flanker, an interesting card because it has so many abilities on it. 3 costs, 3/1 with Flash, and then when it comes in, you choose one of 3 abilities, the weakest of which is Gain 2, Scry 2, and then has a couple other ones as well. But Exile the Graveyard was the choice there.
And now the flanker could potentially attack or hold back to try to trade with the Frillback.
I made 23. I like just protecting my life total.
Yeah. Normally it's not that awkward for the control deck to be assuming the control role, but this is the matchup where you want to be more aggressive. Unfortunately, Wiley not in a position to do so.
Kind of got a time bomb on you with that World Souls Rage looming. Such a cool deck. Can't get over it. See if May wants to trade with the Frillback or even offer it. Could go for World Souls Rage on the flanker just to clear it so we can start hitting face. Get any extra lands from hand into play. Looks like we're going to main phase a Deluge, but this could run headfirst into a No More Lies. We got a reader.
Yeah.
Don said, what's that Spelunking do? Anything?
And, it cycles.
Yeah. It's not doing a lot right now.
It's kind of like a Triome.
Okay. If you're Wiley here, you have to feel pretty bad about your spot, but also, like, pretty happy you're not dead, you know? Here comes the Spelunking. We're going to draw.
The miss on the Shigeki early went a long way towards Wiley being able to stay in this game.
That is true. Certainly true.
Attack! No cowards here.
Yeah, and the Flanker does only have 1 toughness, so the Aftermath Analyst can get in. That's maybe the first time I've ever seen that card attack. We're going to follow it up with a Shigeki, but no land drop for May. We're going to have to pass back with just blue open, and now Wiley might have some serious punish here. Let's see. No More Lies going to exile the Shigeki. Interesting.
That is a nice one. So now, really under no pressure, just 1 point a turn. Not a ton of mana out for May, and you know she doesn't have more lands. Can Wiley establish some pressure of his own? Wandering Emperor.
Now they're in the tank. Should I pop this food token main phase? Should I kill this Aftermath Analyst before the end tap? But there's no creatures in the graveyard. If you pop this clue and miss land, I think the game ends. Because you just put your shields down and miss your land drop.
But what's the worst that happens? There's no potential for any awesome World Souls Rage.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, May resolves a card draw spell.
Or Virtue.
Land plus Virtue, and then you can potentially untap and get lost it.
Yep, if
Still
you
have
have
counter
it.
spell up.
If you have it. May thinking about an ill-timed explosion.
Rethinking that land drop too. Maybe you want to get.
You want to draw cards first.
Yeah, and get an extra red or blue source down.
Yeah, you're not really that upset if No More Lies hits your ill-timed explosion, you know, in the
You're
control
kind of
matchup.
upset. Like, there's no reason to lose it to that counterspell when Wiley's missing land drops.
There's maybe like some combinations with 8 mana, and if you draw like a tap land, it might just be better to have 8 mana for next turn and 6 mana for this turn if you don't really care that much about your card getting counter. But we're just gonna play land and say go because we have Deluge chilling.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, looks like we're gonna get this Frillback back. Frillback the Frillback.
Garen Brig Growth able to bring that one back, but
Negate takes down the Garenberg growth.
Negate was probably going to have to be used on a Virtue of Strength later, so might as well deny the initial card as well.
Gonna play this Deluge while the shields are down, get 2 cards.
It's like another Virtue of Strength.
Nice.
And is that just a bunch of lands? No,
One's
there's
a
a
World
World Souls
Souls
Rage,
Rage.
but we need mana at this point, so yeah, I think May's taking another fetch land.
Yeah, and see now playing that land. I don't know if this is in step or main phase or whatever, but
Can we call those fetch lands at home instead of fetch lands?
ooh.
We have fetch lands at home.
Lifeomorphic Expanse. Mm,
I'm going to call them fetch lands at home.
okay, that's fine. Go ahead. You do you, baby.
Or Foz.
Fourth land for Wiley enters tapped. Looks like Seachrome. And a passing of the turn. May in a dominant mana position and about equal cards in hand.
Yeah. The question now is, can May close this game out? There's only 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, but Wiley down to 12. The chip damage from Analysts, some of the early creatures like Frillback really starting to add up, and another Frillback in hand from the Virtue also. Could go Nissa, land, Frillback, and the land even enters untapped thanks to the Spelunking.
But Wiley's got a grip full of cards. We know he has that Sunfall from earlier. If you can get to land 6, and can just sort of reset everything.
The
Fine.
Farewell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not Sunfall. Farewell.
They all exile and they all wrath. That's fine.
Yeah. That one will exile the, exile graveyards. It'll do everything.
I was hoping May would draw a negate at some point to just like lock things up, you know?
Yeah. Only 3 copies in the deck. Ooh, getting rid of the Farewell.
Yeah, pitch into March to make sure the Nissa doesn't get to draw a free card. Instead, just makes 1 mana. This land does enter untapped, though, thanks to the Spelunking. And with 1 mana floating, we can do something for 6. And that was our land drop for the turn, so we can't play the Virtue from Exile here,
Yeah.
from Adventure.
See what May wants to do with 6 mana.
Maybe just ill-timed.
Yeah. Draw a couple cards.
Yeah. 4 mana draw 2. Hey, it was good enough in wait, when was Inspiration first printed? Was it even good enough then?
Probably not.
Probably not.
And this one's a sorcery.
Yeah. Analyst gets in for 2 more. Looks like we're going to go ahead and Virtue while the shields are down just to get a free land drop back for next turn since it's an untapped land.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Zarek Wiley. What you got?
May up to 8 lands on the battlefield. It'll be 9 next turn. Still not enough to resolve one of the powerful 7s through a No More Lies.
5th mana.
And we are under a minute. Not sure exactly what the 4 cards Wiley has, but they got to be pretty bad, I think, in order for May to end this game on time.
All right, so Analyst can come in here for another 1. If something would happen to it where it would die, they can just sack it to maybe bring back a land from the graveyard. I'm not sure if there's even one hanging out in there anymore. It's hard to tell with the glare. Here's a Nissa.
Yeah, and we know there is a fetch land at home in the hand.
I see a negate in Wiley's hand. That doesn't stop the Nissa. I wonder if he has some way to counter this 3/3. Okay. Another fetch. Going to gain a life, get a mana. And we are entering into turns. So this is going to be turn 0 of turns. Let's make sure our spotter knows. Make sure the players know.
Okay, so now we'll should have 2 mana floating off of this Nissa, plus 6 untapped lands. 8 mana available. We could frill back. Maybe just start attacking. If Wiley's hand is all counterspells, the creatures could be good enough. If it's all removal, then the World Soul's Rage could be good enough. So Wiley sort of needs the right mix to survive these last few turns.
All right, May. Do your worst. Top card. We're looking for... Was it an elf or an elemental?
Yeah, it's going to be another Nissa.
Could be an aftermath
Or an
analyst.
Aftermath, yeah, which is an elf. An elf detective.
Man, we sure went from whodunit to howdy doody real quick. All right, Zarek going to take a look at the cards in Graveyard here. Basically, since these players have entered into untimed territory, they're going to try to figure out the best possible route to victory, and that requires complete knowledge of deck in hand, if possible. And while May is contemplating the rest of her turn, they're going to try to deduce what's about to happen to them. There's a lot of cards revealed off the Nissa as well, so it's not easy to figure everything out, but you can make some deductions.
Yeah, I think the players might have some sort of discrepancy that they're talking over.
Oh, I think the Aftermath analyst got scooped up in the pile of cards from the Nissa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what
there
happened.
should be an analyst on the battlefield. We have fixed that.
Cool. We got a big exile pile and a big going back to the bottom of the graveyard pile. And a little bitty graveyard. 2 mana floating. Nissa in hand. Could cast Virtue of Strength from Adventure. Likely going to get tagged with Negate, but, you know, got to burn through them. Boom.
Yeah, and has another one back up, so this is just drawing out a counterspell that May is almost assuredly knowledgeable of.
Okay. Draw a card with clue.
And this should be turn 1. Yeah, we got the big die up top on the screen there, that big blue die representing the turn count.
I don't think Wiley can physically win the match.
Oh, no.
I think the Jaces are too far. Like back-to-back Jace milling 30, I don't think is good enough. It's close. I think he'll be 2-3 cards short.
Yeah, not sure how big that exile zone is, so hard to get an accurate count from our perspective. But actually, it was pretty big, and I see 18 cards between play and graveyard, plus another handful in the hand, 4 or 5 there.
Okay,
So
maybe
I
double
think
Jace is
back-to-back
good enough.
Jaces would be good enough.
All right, we can attack for quite a bit here. There is I believe, a Restless Anchorage over there somewhere, maybe? Is there?
Yeah, but hard to activate that
Oh,
one as a
there's
blocker
not.
because it takes away so much mana for counterspells.
Right. All right. Zarek down to 6.
So this is turn 2. So this could be another turn where May just baits more counterspells and then saves that World Soul's Rage for turn 4
Mhm.
as the finishing blow.
Could go for a squeezer where you put enough pressure on the table with something like the Frillback, and that one gets around Negate. Not sure if we have enough to do Frillback plus something that matters. but maybe Deluge plus Frillback is enough because Deluge can maybe find a gate to force through the World Fire next turn.
I think I'm in on playing the Virtue of Strength here. You have 3 mana up, so Wily will have to use a hard counterspell in order to stop it. And if it resolves, you can basically just cast the rest of your hand next turn. And if Wily has to tap out to get lost it, then you can just double explore potentially and have lethal in combat.
Okay, we're casting the Virtue. Let's see if Wily has a counter or some other answer.
Yeah, uses 1 mana floating from the Nissa and 6 lands to cast that, so still 4. So even if there's a No More Lies here, try to tap May low, you'll still have 3 mana after to potentially cast more stuff.
Yeah, and that's enough to just cast a Frillback, which threatens lethal.
Yeah.
We're going to deduce in response.
And that is exactly what you want to see if you're May French.
Well, we did find a No More Lies, but I think that we...
Yeah, and this is the best time you're going to have to cast it.
Oh, yeah. I'll pay 3.
Yeah, leave myself with the forest.
Okay, now resolves. Here's the Frillback. So we're threatening lethal. We're giving him the squeeze. Zarek Wily, we're going back your way. You pitched that farewell. Do you have another sweeper in your deck? If not, you need a way to stop these creatures from killing you. You also need a way to stop this World Soul's Rage from killing you. Do you have the answer?
You probably need a way to stop the Virtue, because otherwise the Memory Deluge will find another way to kill you. So, attacking from 3 different angles, it appears. Wily in tank, trying to find a way to survive one more turn, squeak out of this match with a draw. But
This is turn 3 of turns. May will be turn 4, and then Wily will have one more turn 5.
where nothing of consequence will occur. Looks like there's a Wandering Emperor, so that could exile the Nissa, gain Wily 2 life, but he'd be tapped down to 1 mana, and the World Soul's Rage would obliterate him.
Well, there's no better time. No better time to main phase Wandering Emperor.
A little too late for that card. We needed that early.
Yeah. All right. We're going to exile the Nissa, gain 2. May French and her team, Jacob Fumich and Dawn Delosier, are about to punch their ticket into the top 8, where they're going to play some more Team Magic, looking for championship. Boom. The World Soul's Rage. You're done. Zarek Wily defeated. May French moves to 4-1-1 with her team and punches her ticket to the top 8. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, really good stuff. That was a much tougher matchup than we saw her have earlier in the day against the Domain deck, but she navigated it well. Very long, complicated games, and she comes away victorious.